Well, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out for the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting. I love any chance I can talk about horses. I
Yeah,
love it.
absolutely. So let's get into it. Before we get into the horses and your work, I want to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was
Yes.
creating so many changes in all of our lives. We had the mirror in front of us. What are we going to do? The existential moment. How did you get through that era? And how has it influenced the way that you live and work today?
I almost feel guilty saying it, but there were a lot of things that I enjoyed
Yeah,
about that shutdown. And that I was doing real estate at the time. So, as you mentioned, the reincarnation of your career, like I have had a bunch of careers on the way. Studied college, MBA, business, corporate. Then I have 5 kids, so I was raising children. Then I did real estate, and then the pandemic. And the horses were always my background thing, my hobby, my obsession. I'll fully admit, obsession. And then the pandemic hit, and I just wanted to be out with the horses. I just wanted to be in nature because their life was good, life was healthy, life was I wasn't hearing all the, horrible stuff going on. And I was doing this kind of training with the horses and just really forming these bonds. And I thought maybe this is my chance with everything else kind of stopped. This is my chance to finally see if I can make this into a career. And then I started formulating this whole horse and people project and having focus groups come out to the farm because that was the thing I had to offer. You can be outside, you can distance as much as you want from the next person. So come feel healthy at the barn and see what you learn from the horses. So I did a ton of focus groups, and that really jump started this whole career.
my son's on the spectrum, and when he was young, we did hippotherapy, which
Okay.
threw me off in the beginning. I was like, why are they equating that word with horses? It threw me off. But the power just in that world of helping special needs kids find balance and find the belonging and animal and human, all of those things wrapped up. It's amazing to see how
There,
that works.
Yeah, and there's so many studies that show the impact of
Yeah,
how much it helps. And I don't work with special needs or PTSD because there are amazing organizations that already do that.
yeah, yeah,
For
yeah,
me, it was about how do I help other people who don't have access to a horse? And for me specifically, the two major groups was leadership, any kind of leadership position, and parenting,
yeah,
because those were the main lessons that when people came out, they were like, "Oh, I feel this as a mom. I didn't realize I was pushing my kid away." And the same at work, like a boss, like, "Oh, this is why my employees are afraid to come to me. I didn't know I was doing this." And having a horse as your teacher, we are more willing to accept that lesson rather than a person sometimes. You know what I mean? Like sometimes
yeah.
a person can be a little rough, like you always do this, or, but when a horse responds or doesn't respond, then it's up to us to think, oh, well, what did I do in this situation to cause that?
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. If I put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day and one of the kids wanted to know what you do for a living and maybe even a synopsis of your career leading up to today, what would your answer be?
So, I've been asked something similar, and this theory that people say, do what you love, um, find what you're passionate in and do that.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure about that. So if you and I are both similar in that we've had all these different careers and they all help the
yeah,
one that you're currently in. So I
yeah,
studied business and I got my MBA and I work corporate project management. How does that help me? Well, gosh, starting my own business, getting an LLC, structuring, being able to do my books, all that fed right into, well, now I'm a little bit closer to my passion, which was working with horses. But if I hadn't had all that business background, I don't know that I could have done it.
yep,
So for young people, it's easy to say, well, find what you love. And well, I don't know, everything you do is hopefully going to take you a step closer to where you're actually going to be in your 50s and 60s. Yeah,
That's refreshing. That's a refreshing way to put it because I think about with kids when they bemoan math and hardcore algebra or like history and all of these things, and it's like, all right, it doesn't make any sense, and that's the
yeah,
ignorance of youth. You don't figure that out until you live long enough on this planet. But
yeah.
all of those things, I remember someone told me a story one time where the electricity went out in a retail store and the kids couldn't count the change out, right? So it's
Yes.
those things you literally need to know. But I totally agree because I've been kind of in different incarnations, and all of it, like in my incarnation as a host now, it's just piqued my curiosity for professions and what people do and the work that everybody has in this world, the niche things like working with horses.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating world, and when you're on the inside, it's like it's like you're inside the peanut butter jar. But for those of us on the outside, we just don't know how it works.
Yeah, and for me, I combined so this passion for horses and natural horsemanship training, which is it's the horse whispering stuff. So it was making a partnership with my horse rather than this, really hard dominance training. And I also love self-help. Like I love reading, Eckhart Tolle and Pema Chodron, the Buddhist theories and the Mel Robbins and Brene Brown. Like I love all that stuff. So this kind of combines that because everything that I was learning training my horse, at first I thought it was just, well, I'm going to have a great relationship with my horse. But then started spilling over into my life because I thought, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. And I had specific situations like, um, of there was this, I'll tell you a quick story. There was where I used to keep my horses. There was a girl that had her mare, which is a female horse, constantly had a rope around the mare's face, a halter when the horse was in the field. And normally when your horses are in the field, they're loose, right? You don't have to let them be horses, let them be with their friends. You don't have to have anything on them. And so I asked her one day, I said, why do you keep all that on your mare when she's in her field? And the girl said, well, she runs away from me. So I kind of have to get real close and then quickly grab the rope. And I thought, wow, that's the last thing that I want with my horse, that they
Yeah.
see me and they run away. It's kind of like you get home and your dog runs away from you.
Yep.
Like, something's wrong, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I worked on it with my horses. I just showed up for them. So I think what happened with her is she was coming at her horse with expectations every day
Yep.
what the horse can do for her. So it was never anything fun for the horse. And I turned that around and I made sure, let me just show up, give him a treat, scratch him. Maybe I ride, maybe the vet comes, maybe it's time for their hooves to be trimmed. Just balancing it with, okay, then they'll get a bath or that they like. And the green grass is over there. I'll take them for a walk and let them graze on the better grass. Like just mixing it up. And I just thought, okay, I'm having a really great relationship with my horses. And one day I'm driving in and my horses run to the gate. They see my car coming and the girl was there and she was like, "Oh my gosh, is that a fluke?" And I said, "No, I just have been, spent the last month kind of just making sure that the relationship was good for both of us, like win-win for both of us, giving them treats." And so I told her some of the things I was doing and her response was, "Oh, that's too much work."
Wow.
Yeah.
When I
So
got dogs, when my kids were young, I watched Caesar Milan, and there was a
I
lot of that
love him.
psychology,
Love him.
right? It's
Yeah.
that whole thing, like why are you doing this with your animals? And the thing about animals, and I would imagine this would be universal, they feed off of the energy of the human being, period.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It sounds like with her, it's kind of like when you think in life where you want to go back and revisit the past or whatever, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for you? Or are
Yeah.
you doing it for them? And it's like with animals, like, what are you doing? What is the whole goal of you being around this animal? Because
Yeah.
animals will figure that out. If we want to save legal costs in this country, we should fill all the jury boxes with animals and babies because they know exactly what's going on. And
Yes.
they will root the truth out like that, you know?
Yes.
So,
Yes. And so the truth was that horse was like, no way, she's here. I'm out of here. And
yeah,
mine were like, oh, yay, she's here.
yeah,
And it only took a month,
uh-huh.
and so fast forward a few years again, I'm thinking, great, I have this great relationship with my horses and they love me and they want to hang out with me. And Fast forward, I'm having coffee at my kitchen counter and I see one of my teenage sons kind of through the corner of my eye. He starts walking into the kitchen and then he stops and he backs up. And I thought, oh, he saw me and he was like, nope, not in the mood for mom today. So it clicked immediately like, okay, I was doing to my son what this girl had been doing to her horse.
Yeah.
For every interaction, if you've been around teenagers, they don't always share a lot. And so I'm probably saying, your bedroom is dirty, your laundry, your essays, school, blah, 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 blah. So he saw me and he was like, oh, not in the mood.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
I thought, okay, that's not the relationship I want with my kid.
Hmm.
So again, that was how I started making these connections of things that with my horse were mirrored in my life that I wanted a better relationship.
Yeah.
Because I often say, like, the first 17 years of your children is one thing. I want to be part of their life from 17 on,
Yep.
is a much longer, lifespan, you would hope. And
Yeah.
so, how do I establish a better relationship where instead of backing away from me, he's coming to me?
Hmm. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I had to kind of reset my mind frame where just because I'm with him doesn't mean I'm grilling him for information.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
So let me go back to when you were 12 years old. What was your dream job? What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was little, I did want to work with horses. My dad said if I was a vet, that would be good. But I saw one little mole removed off a horse and I got sick. So I thought that's not in my future. And then my parents are South American, so they really did not support working with horses at all because to them, um, they came to this country, they were both doctors. And so for them, the horse was more you show up at the country club and the horse is ready for you,
Yeah.
not you're the person getting the horse ready.
Yeah.
But I wanted that. I wanted to be the person really interacting with the horse, not just the person jumping on. Now I have to say, so they wouldn't support, the horse thing, which is why I went to business school and then masters. They weren't wrong.
Yeah.
They weren't completely wrong. So
Sure.
that's again because I wouldn't have been able to, if I didn't have that background, have my own barn,
Yeah.
be the boss. I still would have been working for someone else. So again, what we want at 12, maybe you can reinvent it again in the future once you've gone through other iterations or learned other things that you needed to learn to get there.
So, what was your first experience with the horse? With anything that we fall in love with, there's a seminal moment. What was the beginning? What was that like? What
A
hooked you into
police,
this world?
a police. So horse people, we kind of joke that there's a gene that we're born with,
Yeah.
and either you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
I definitely had it, but I grew up in New York City.
Yeah.
So not a lot of horse opportunity until I saw a policeman.
Okay.
And then I followed him back to his barn and the US Park Police, they were so nice. They let us hang out because who wants to have a bunch of teenagers? I was probably about 12 or 13. But it was four of us that ended up going, you know, anytime that we had, and we helped them. So we took over cleaning the barn for the cops and, doing some of the jobs that they had to do so they could go out on patrol. And that was kind of our way of being able to stay and learn from them. So that, yeah. So from
That's,
early, I always loved horses.
being a kid in Kansas City, I remember watching the World Series in '86. I was a big Mets fan. And
Oh, me too.
right. See? And
Yeah,
and those horses came out and I was like, wow, that's not something that would ever happen here. Like I never saw horses come out as a part of like an arsenal of police. So that was always
yeah,
cemented in my brain. So let me ask you this. Who's been your hero throughout your kind of career of being a chameleon and finding your way right now? Who has
yeah.
been that inspirational force?
In the horse world, definitely Buck Brannaman.
Yeah.
So he was one of the original horse whisperers. Really tough childhood, um, overcame a lot and just with dignity. like a lot of dignity. Is he really could have gone the wrong way, and but he was one of the original, like that movie, even The Horse Whisperer.
Yeah.
I think the Robert Redford character is actually based on this guy Buck Brannaman. So I went to a bunch of his clinics, and I started following a lot of the horse whisperers. And again, at that point, I thought I was just having a great relationship with my horse. And then the Brene Browns and the Eckhart Tolle for me is a huge one. The spiritual teachers and the self-help improvement, understanding yourself, you know, that part really for me, because I internalized it, that when I started seeing the correlations with the horse, I was like, oh, this I could have at work. I didn't set the boundary. Like with the horse, you have to set the boundary. He's 1,000 pounds. He could really hurt you. But then we forget that there's also an emotional and energetic boundary that we can set too. And maybe at work, I'm not setting those boundaries. It's
Yeah.
not just physical.
Yeah.
So just making all those connections for me is really, I love it.
Once you got on the inside, obviously you've had a love for horses. What was the most surprising thing that you didn't realize about being in that culture, being around those animals that always energizes you?
How much they appreciate when we are good leaders, how much they really look to us to help them out.
Wow.
Because they're prey animals, we're predators. So much of what we do is aggressive. Even the way we, walk straight at them, to them can feel aggressive. So really learning to tone down my energy or make it neutral. Like, how do I make my energy neutral? Because they pick up on it
Hmm.
so quickly.
Interesting.
And yeah, and a lot of times they dumb themselves down. They have to because we're too much.
Wow, I get that. I get that. There used to be a donkey in this community that I
Mhm.
work in called Grandview, and his name was Ebenezer. And we loved him, and I would take Miles and we would feed him, and he'd bray, and everybody loved him. He was like a rock star. And I'm wondering how much of a difference there is between the horse and donkey world.
I don't know. I would imagine not that much, except
Yeah,
the donkey, like when you're just visiting him, there's no downside for him of
right.
that. I think with horses, the downside becomes because, they're made to race, which thoroughbreds definitely have that instinct. You can see when they're running in their herds. You can pick out the thoroughbreds because they will just blow by the
Yeah.
other horses. Now, do they want to be kept in a stall? Like, I don't keep my horses in a way that on the East Coast, it's people put them in stalls, they lock them in, they put blankets on them, they put shoes on them. So I try not to do any of that. I want them to live as naturally as possible.
Yeah.
And so I think with donkeys, if he's just like somebody's pet, he's just getting treats and love
Oh,
from
yeah.
everyone.
All the time. All the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So if you had a dream tonight, ran into the 16-year-old version of you, and you have a coffee table book in your hand, and you give it to him, and you're like, that's how your life turned out. Would that version of you believe it?
No, I don't think so. Probably not.
Yeah.
Because at 16, I'm 58 now. Like it's just so much life in between
Hmm.
that there's no way you can capture that. I mean, what do they say about like wisdom? You don't have a lot of wisdom at 16.
No.
You just haven't lived. I
Yeah.
had somebody actually ask to intern with me. It was a young person, and to learn, because what I taught in my sessions, and I respectfully declined because at 18, like I can talk to so many different topics, to parenting because I have a lot of parents, to finding a new career, to going from, corporate MBA business to stay-at-home mom, to then finding myself again, to going through divorce, to you can't teach everything that you've learned. And I can pull all this in when I have groups, when they come, and I've had people break down in tears,
Yeah.
because the horse. brings out something in them. And, you know, it's not something necessarily that an 18-year-old would understand.
Yeah. Yeah. So, of everything that you've accomplished, and more importantly, in your career and life evolved to, what are you ultimately the happiest about, proudest of?
Definitely my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, raising 5 kids is not a small thing,
Yeah.
and focusing on trying to have a good relationship with all of them. And yeah. And then now they can see me like as, reinventing myself. So, you know, them being able to see that, I'm getting up on stage with a few hundred people in an audience and talking about, because I wrote a book. So that's part of this too, is I wrote a book that's coming out next month. And, they're just kind of like, Mom, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so. Speaking of who you are, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, your kids, everyone that you work with, everyone that knows you in a business sense. There's all these different bubbles, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am a curious person. I constantly want to research and learn, try something new. I'm not extremely brave. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. So, but I definitely like learning and trying new things constantly.
So give us kind of the 30-second pitch for your book, when it'll be out, how people can get a copy.
So the book is called Ask Like You Mean It: Lessons in Communication from an Unexpected Source, My Horse. And Ask Like You Mean It became a mantra when I was having sessions and people were coming to work with the horse, because I noticed a huge disconnect from people of how they would ask for something, and it was disconnected from their actual intention and the energy that they put into the ask. So we're afraid to ask for what we want. We're afraid to ask like we mean it. So I would just keep having to remind people, no, no, ask like you mean it. Like everything should flow.
Yeah.
And so it's a bunch of stories from all the clients that I've had. So I'm trying to, again, make horsemanship and the lessons from horses accessible for people without having to come to the farm. Like, hopefully, people can read the stories and say, oh, I can see this. I've been dragging people around. I wasn't leading from behind and encouraging. And
Yeah.
so these kinds of stories. So each horse story is paired with a relationship story, whether it's at work or whether it's at home. So for people to have a little bit of time to think like, oh, this relates to me. So it's going to be out in January 15th
Okay.
is the launch date, and it's going to be on Amazon and hopefully other booksellers. I'm working my way through all of that right now. So
Yep.
I'm super excited about it.
That's a whole other adventure. So, Horse and People Project, if anybody wants to find out about speaking, the
Yep.
mission of the organization, the book, all of the good stories and news, where do they go?
horseandpeopleproject.com
Okay.
in the US.
Excellent. I will put all of those links in the show notes. So great to meet you. Thank you for your
Thank
passion.
you.
Thank you for your story. I
Great to
appreciate it.
meet you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
you bet. And